Okay, hello everybody. It was again a Wednesday. And there's like a really big, what do you call those things? Caterpillar coming this way, so you might hear that in a moment. There it is. Because once again, it is busy for some reason. It's Wednesday again, like I said. And I went to the secondhand store. I've taken to going on a different day other than Saturday, just because I feel like it during the week. But there was so many people there that I couldn't even park in the area that I normally park at, which is a fairly long line of parking spots. So there was no spots there, and there were even these really big vans that were from some type of business that had parked there, and one of them was sticking out really far to the point that I thought we might actually hit it with a mirror. But we didn't, fortunately. And then I went to look at the available spaces around the actual store itself. Those were also all full. So I drove back around along the road, and ultimately I ended up turning back around the road as well to look at the other side, because there's like a divider down the middle, and I ended up parking way in the back, like almost near the end of the road, where there was actually an area where you could park, which is where we are currently. So that was quite the experience, and we had to walk, well, I had to walk anyway, about, well, I'd say about 5 to 10 minutes or something. Quite a bit of a walk here. Also very busy, so a lot of that time was also spent waiting for a moment where I could actually cross the road. I'm currently parked next to a fairly vague looking warehouse type building, so I wasn't quite sure if my car was safe here, but nobody's parked here since I parked here about an hour ago, so a really big truck. So nothing really happened, fortunately. So that's that. Anyway, so I got myself a couple items again. I got a really big Weck jar, not quite a Weck, a brand, I think. Don't think it has a brand, but it's one of those that you can close with like a clip, and then it's got this rubber ring around the edge so no air or water gets in. And also I have this bowl, which is like a divided bowl. It comes from the USA apparently. I've never heard of the brand, and I thought maybe it'd be interesting to check out what that was. And I didn't want to leave it either because it looks interesting, and I always grab things when they look interesting. I also have a tire filling set, which I believe is something you can use when you get like a flat tire and you don't have a jack or something. You can just open up the valve, put that thing on it, and then I think it's a one-use item. And it's really just to make sure that your tire is not completely flat, so you can still drive it to the garage to have a new tire put on. So it's like an emergency filling type of thing, which I thought would be handy. And it says it goes on all tires, and so I figured, you know, it doesn't really doesn't cost a lot. I think it was like $3.50 or something. I'm not really sure. So it can't really hurt to have one on board. And I think it came with somebody else's car, and then they probably cleared it out and then sold it to somebody else, and thought, oh, this stuff has been laying in the back, I'll just get rid of it. Another really big truck coming on. That's why I'm looking in the rearview mirror. Here it comes. Should hear it in a moment. There, you can see it on the side window. Lots of trucks in this area, because this is a fairly industrial area, commercial area, so there's lots of trucks everywhere. The spot where I'm currently at is usually also filled with trucks, but today is kind of empty, so maybe as the week progresses, people will park here, because pretty often there will be truck drivers that are like international, and they can't like go anywhere until Sunday or Monday, something along those lines, and then they just kind of park up for the weekend, and they just kind of sleep here on a parking lot inside their trucks, obviously. Speaking of trucks, I was watching The Convoy yesterday, like the movie Convoy. I know there's also a convoy in Canada. That's actually why I looked it up in the first place, because they were talking about how it's this convoy of truckers for freedom and stuff like that, and against mandates and all that sort of thing. And that reminded me of the movie Convoy from 1978, I believe it said. If you've never seen it, it's a good movie. You should check it out. It's kind of interesting. It's about people who basically start off running from the police in their own trucks because they're all truckers, and all these other truckers start following them around. And they have a huge amount of trucks at some point, I think over 50 or 100 or something, but just because they can, really. And they all protest something in their own little way, so that's why it reminded me of The Convoy, which is currently, I believe, in Ottawa, Canada right now. The main capital of Canada. The only capital of Canada. They don't have more than one, I don't think. And that's also interesting. I've been watching some live streams from them as well to see what's going on over there, and they're basically just parked up with all sorts of flags on there to protest against vaccine mandates and other things that they're being made to do, lockdowns, whatever it is that they don't want anymore. I think a lot of people all over the world feel that way, but they actually organized something. Well, other people have done protests as well, but they are a little bit more noticeable, of course, because they have huge trucks on them, and everybody else who supports them around them as well to boot. So that was interesting to watch. Also interesting to note that when you look at the live streams and see what's actually going on, it's very different to what the media is, of course, reporting. It's always a thing in the media that they want to represent things in a way that they want you to think about them. So they'll say certain things that aren't really true, and they like stage stuff and stuff like that. And if you don't actually go and look at what's actually happening in the location, it's fairly quiet. I believe they honk their horns every once in a while, and they also play the national anthem of Canada like every hour or something, and then basically just kind of hang out, trying to promote freedom. That's basically all that's happening, so that's interesting as well. I also found it interesting that Facebook actually tried to fact check an article of the British Medical Journal, which has been around since the 1900s and is a very respected medical journal. And I believe a dentist posted a link to some article, and the fact checkers pulled that down, saying that there was misinformation in there or inaccurate information or something, as though Facebook has somebody sitting around who can actually peer review the British Medical Journal. So that's pretty arrogant of Facebook or whatever third party that they hired to do that, because of course Facebook doesn't actually like fact check things themselves. They always have like third parties doing that type of thing, so they can always say, well, actually, it wasn't actually us who pulled that. That was the third party that we work with who does our fact checking. So they can always kind of like shove responsibility in somebody else's shoes. So I thought that was interesting and arrogant at the same time. So it's interesting to note that whenever they think that something is not good enough, they can just pull it down indiscriminately, even if they're not actually the type of person who could peer review medical journals. So they just think they can do whatever they want. I heard an interesting thing the other day. Actually, today I heard that there's a certain law going to be passed in the European Union, which would make it so that data from the European Union couldn't be stored in the US, and that would be in particularly bad for things like Facebook and Instagram, which has data basically stored in the US. So that would mean that Instagram and Facebook and probably other things as well couldn't no longer be used in the European Union unless they set up a bunch of servers here as well. So that I thought was kind of interesting, that suddenly a whole bunch of people here would suddenly no longer be able to access their Facebook account or their Instagram account. I wonder how people would react to that, if they would suddenly start looking around to see what's going on in the world because they can't access their Facebook groups or something. Personally, I only would find it interesting to see that happen, and I don't really care because I tend to not spend any time on either platform. I actually closed my Facebook account sometime last year. I closed it, but I kind of stopped using it years before. I just had it because I kind of thought like, oh, if I close my Facebook account, then I'm going to get all these negative comments from people in my family who are very active on Facebook and who see that as some type of rejection if you were to close your account, and they can no longer send you digital happy birthday messages or something. Because that is something that really bothers me about platforms like Facebook. Like, as soon as Facebook came around, you had a whole bunch of people that were like, oh, they're sending you virtual Christmas greetings now. Oh, it's so cheap because you don't actually have to buy a card and mail it out and buy stamps and stuff like that. And then those people were also the exact same people that started doing that. And I'm still sending actual Christmas cards and stuff like that. And I don't really consider it a Christmas greeting if you just copy paste the picture from Google onto somebody else's timeline. That's not really a Christmas greeting as far as I'm concerned. It's not the official Christmas card, season greetings, that type of thing anymore. It's just a quick afterthought, and in some cases they don't even post it on people's timelines. They just post it on their own timeline to say Happy Christmas everyone, and then they think they've done their due diligence, I guess. Kind of cheap and lame, so I don't really care about Facebook, and I actually stopped caring about it a long time ago. And I also don't like, or it used to be that you couldn't like separate who could see your messages on the timeline, and this is like a long time ago, and I kind of wanted to keep my family members that I had added on Facebook separate from the stuff that I wanted to post for my friends, because usually the people in my family, they're very old-fashioned. They'll seem to have like a boomer mindset, and my friends, the people that I had on Facebook that I considered friends, had a very different way of thinking about the world and stuff like that. So I imagined that if I were to post stuff on my Facebook timeline that my friends would enjoy but my family would find strange, that could cause a lot of nonsense, and I really just didn't want that. So I thought initially, you know what, I'm just going to make groups of my friends. Like, I'm going to make a group for friends, and I'm going to make a group for family. And that didn't turn out to be like grouping your contacts into like different categories, like contact groups like that, like an Outlook or something. Instead, it made an actual Facebook group, and since I had made the group for the family first because I wanted them out of my timeline, they're like, oh, it's so good idea of you to put everybody in the group and we can all chat together. It's like, oh, that's kind of not what I wanted to do. And then they started suggesting people that I should also add, like, oh, you should also put that one in the group and put this one in the group. And then I became the Facebook group member or initiator, I guess you could say. Even though I didn't really want to talk to any of those people, so that was a little bit annoying. But okay, so I stopped doing stuff in there pretty quickly because I really don't like, I don't know, it's just really annoying because particularly Facebook is a place where people will post annoying sparkly pictures with all sorts of useless catchphrases and stuff, like the whole live, laugh, love nonsense that people like fill their houses with. That's basically Facebook. Kind of like some people have these like modern bowls, like ceramic bowls or glass bowls, and then they're filled with these weird woven wooden ball things or fluffy things that really don't make any sense. You don't need to have them for anything, and then they just have bowls full of that sitting on their coffee table and stuff like that. Like, why do you need that? I really don't see why. Very busy right now. Wow. What time is it? I don't know. But I'm gonna stop recording then because now it's time to go. Apparently it's super busy. Nothing much on my schedule for the rest of the day, but I'm just going to chill at home. I'm going to try to cook some Brussels sprouts, which I haven't done in a long time, so I figured I would give that a try. Meanwhile, I hope you guys are doing well. I'll hope to see you in another video. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.